everybody, and a very warm welcome to Keka HR Conclave, the Chennai chapter. We are all here today to acknowledge the past achievements, celebrate the present, and strategize for the future of the corporate world through HR. Before we go ahead, I would like to applaud the continuous and dedicated efforts of each and every one of you sitting here for bringing your organizations to what it is today. So a huge round of applause for every one of you, please. So we started Keka way back in 2015 as a bootstrapped entity, and we have grown to become India's leading SME HR tech leader. And we started this series of conclaves, for that matter, because we understand the power of human resources. And we thought this series can help us understand and make organizations understand and leverage the power that human resources hold. And we strongly believe that employee experience is over everything. We believe that customer experience plus employee experience gives rise to 10 times the growth in any organization. So we'll be talking more about this and the other factors that are vital for HRs to succeed in the next 5 years. So Ashish and Kshitij will be hosting the next session. So please be awaited for that.
We'll go on with the distribution. You will have 15 to 20 minutes to collect the pointers, and then me and Ashish is going to cover every single table and ask the inputs out of you, right? So this is going to be, me and Ashish will play the moderator here, while you all are the experts who are supposed to share the set of knowledges and challenges that you face.
Kshitij, let's set some rule. Right. I think we have around 12-13 tables. If each table is going to take around 7 minutes, so it will get over in within 1.5 hours to 2 hours, right? So be very concise, specific to the point. Correct?
Yep, sure.
Yeah?
It would be best if you start with an introduction, and we can go on.
Okay, everybody please pay attention. Stop the exercise now. Thank you so much.
Hey, very good evening, guys. My name is Bharat. I work as head of HR in a product company called Finsley. I'm very happy to be here. The topic given to us is effective employee onboarding. So we did try to talk a lot about it. What are the challenges? The first challenge which we thought about is the employee documentation. As soon as an employee comes in, he gets tired when we say you got a list of documents to sign, starting from your NDA for your personal documentation and other things. But now the HRMS tools which are coming in, we have a pre-onboarding processes, which we just have to send the link, they make sure that they enter that. But the second problem there is how do you validate it? So that's the major problem which we saw. The second thing is, when we talk about employee onboarding, it does not stop on day 1 or day 2. It involves the 30, 60, 90 day, where an employee currently travels with us, because that 90 days is very crucial, where he decides whether this is my organization to work with or it is not my organization to work. So the next thing is there any tool which really helps to track, because everything becomes manual. We have a handbook called Employee Onboarding Manager Handbook, which talks about what will happen on the day 1, what are the checklists which we'll have to fill. But the second thing is, how effective are we using it? Because when we talk about 30, 60, 90 day, HR has its own questions, but very crucial is the managers or the teammates who are working with this particular person or the new employee to create that journey, right? So we have difficulties in that right now, because we said mentor-mentee model, we said, like what you call the buddy model and all, but how effective is buddy model? Mentor-mentee model, how effective it is? I say, okay, you are his mentor, but if you see in 90 days, you would have not even met more than twice or thrice. Is there an interval where they meet them? No, we don't have any tool to track that. Okay, we call for goals. We say, what is your first 30-day goals? I'll be honest, don't take me wrong, if there are any developers or any operations folks, we always expect our new joinees to be like a plug and play. But 30 days, what he's not performing, he's not an employee, please move him out. That's what most of the small companies right now look at. But are we creating a path there on employee onboarding? That's something which we'll have to define right now. The major challenge is we have ideas in mind. How effective are we putting those ideas in practicality? How are we tracking those ideas? Because as a HR, it is our responsibility to have that employee's life cycle in the organization for the first 90 days to be effective. All we look at is we make sure that we are giving him a great presentation during the interview process, have a wonderful onboarding insight initially, but that 90 days, he gets lost, right? So there are things like access controls, whichever is necessary for him, we make sure that that's all happening. But are there processes where an employee knows who to go and reach out if he's got a problem. Technically, we don't have anything like that where we track, okay? And is the goal setting on the first 30, 60, 90 days achievable? Do we have any measurability to it? We don't have it. So those are something which I think, or our team thinks is a difficulty right now. I'm just open for your suggestions as well. When we were looking at it, we did a brainstorming in our own organization. So what we did right now is we also referred some of them. To be honest, we had some referrals from SHRM and Harvard Business Review and all. Now we have made a small handbook. It says what an HR has to do, what a manager has to do, or the mentor has to do. So it has list of topics accordingly, and we are trying to do it, but again, it's manual. So if my performance appraisal starts, I'm going to be busy in that, forgetting about these things. So how is that we are going to track everything? You know, that's something which is really important. Okay.
All right, so that was quite a submission, right? So what you essentially focused on is the set of activities are overwhelming, right? Because at the end of the day, the identification of stakeholder in itself is a complex thing during the phase of onboarding. Right, so majorly the table discussed the problems that they face on it, right? I would take this opportunity to give a brief on how Keka could help here, right? That's my job to do. So in terms of like we as a platform, when we started building, we majorly wanted to stay an HR ops platform. You know. That was majorly the major amount of time of HR went into getting the ops things done, you know, managing people's leaves, attendance, and, you know, like getting the payroll out at the time, right? But essentially, moving forward, the quality of HR processes in India improved drastically with technology coming into play. We consider ourselves to be one of the key role player into that as well. So 2015, when we started this, onboarding was not really the concern for us because at that point of time, there were bigger problems to be answered. But eventually, we started looking into it, right? So the way we want to look at this problem, or we identify this as a problem, is that there are multiple layers, right? So one which you highlighted was the stakeholders part, right? Identification of stakeholders is important, that what is going to be an employee's role in getting onboarded, what is going to be a managerial role to be getting onboarded, and maybe probably department head or people moving forward, or HR as a department. So getting those sorted a bit, and then defining, putting a tech in place to make sure that those nominal checks in terms of if the activities are happening on a timely manner or if there are any grievances that employees has, giving them those windows to get that done is something which should, on which we have been building the onboarding as a module. Now, onboarding includes a lot of problems, right? From documents collection to, compliances that we have to follow for people onboarding the organization. There are vendors which are supposed to do a lot of jobs, right? So communicating that on time. Right, and the initial 3 months, right? Again, you highlighted that as well. Now, those 3 months are also, a lot of things, right? For an employee, if you look at it, 82% of the employees today, as per a survey, they state that their job would be a lot more easier if they understand during the time of joining that what is the key responsibilities or problems that they're going to face in it, right? So onboarding module or onboarding as a function is supposed to eliminate that redundancy in people's head. It is supposed to bring that clarity to people that what they are supposed to do in, in what period of time. Objectives at day 0 for startups is happening for sure. But ideally, if we look at it, like it's not something which is an ideal practice to begin with, right? So yeah, it was a great submissions. Majorly, table 1 was about problems. We'll move to the table 2. Thank you very much for this.
Yeah. So let me add few more things. Do you think onboarding has really improved drastically in last few months or during the COVID?
All right, we have a point.
Yeah.
Well, COVID put us in a situation where HR ceased to exist without the HRMS. We had to do away with all the manual working. So,
True.
Today they are intertwined.
There are 2 points which is coming in my mind related to onboarding. I'm just looking at some table to contribute, which are those major points. The onboarding experience drastically improved during the COVID and post-COVID as well, which were not there before COVID. Virtual, yes, to some extent. Very minor thing, Very minor thing. Now listen, very minor thing. Earlier we were giving a laptop in how many days after joining? Tell me. 1 week? Almost 1 week on an average. If you do the study before COVID, new joiner getting laptop in 1 week. Now when you are giving, even before joining, not only you are giving, but you are sending by courier to them. Right. So that's another part. I have another part over and above.
So that's a great point. If we look at it like this has evolved, right? So the paperwork was extremely redundant before that, but it has improved drastically with digital platforms coming in play.
Now, Kshitij, HR has a too much of budget to give a joining kit. CHR was fighting for a small thing earlier, you know. Sir, can you please give me a budget to give something to new joiner, even good pen, good diary. Today, you know what company is giving, do you know? Just go to LinkedIn and search joining kit. And there are so many vendor in this business, they are making huge money, huh? Believe me, you can leave the HR job and today you can make a lot of money. So many vendor, they are coming up with very attractive, creative joining kit. And we are ready to pay how much, you know, per joiner? 500 to 1,000 bucks. And they are happily going to on LinkedIn and putting in, okay, this is the joining kit, I have got it. So these two things, you know, is for my experience, and I hope now most of you agree, is drastically increased during the COVID, post-COVID now. I hope it should continue. Yeah, okay, we go to next table.
Right, so I'll move, all right, ma'am, we can start with an introduction and then.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Dr. Saranya, coming from Hexamap Solutions, Private Limited. It's in Kandanjavadi. So, I joined the company in January. They gave me a task, that is performance management system, where we have to take care of appraisal and retention and all those bonuses. And I faced a it was very difficult task actually, because we need to satisfy the employees as well as the boss. So there was a lot of tied up. Till now, the appraisal thing has not been sorted out. So we are facing so much challenges there. So what challenges I found was there was a lack of objectivity. We didn't have an objective on how we should take care of the appraisal system. So that was the first major challenge which I faced. And there was a lack of two-way communication. Because they may be interrupting in one way, I could have taken in some other way. And after talking to me, they talk a different way to the boss. So there was a lack of two-way communication there. And we had a rating evaluation. That is a two-way process. But that was not taken to a good approach. They said we have worked night, we have worked in the US timings, we have worked for the clients, Saturday, Sunday, all those things which we are not able to say that it was their duty to do it. Right. And we are also concerned about that Saturday and Sunday they have worked, we are not able to convince them, because the client has asked them to do. So we have been requesting them to do. So that was a tedious task to convince them. And the other thing is, we need to train the appraisers to overcome the common problems. So they were not aware what was the common problem we are facing. So we wanted to train them how you should overcome the common problem, how to set your goals. And we were also tedious to tell them how to seek your growth opportunity to get your appraisal. So this was the challenge we faced.
All right, so just to quickly give a brief, whatever ma'am said, right? So that's pretty much bang on point if you look at it, right? So performance management, every single one of us in the community leave the organization, we ourselves face problems with that. Setting goals, ambitiously and aggressively is something which is always going to be tricky, and executing the process end to end includes a lot of phases. Now that itself is a problem. I really don't want to add much points here because they're pretty well written. So 6 points I'll summarize: lack of objectivity in people, lack of two-way communication between employees and the organization, ratings and understanding of ratings amongst the employees, training appraisers to overcome common problems. Number 5, goal setting, right? Always a challenge. And finally, the growth opportunities or designing a career path for people. So these are very typical challenging problems with PMS. I can give solutions to this, but I have a workshop, at the end of it where I will be giving a quick walkthrough of how Keka can assist you in getting all of these executed. So thank you very much, ma'am. There were great additions. This gives me a context of taking the session forward. So I'll move to table 3.
Kshitij, I'd like to add something.
Please, Ashish, yeah.
And this I do it in every conference. Do you know what is your role? What do you do in a company? Raise your hand. This related to performance of management, goal setting. Do you know what do you do in a company? What's your role? Raise your hand. Okay. Is your goal setting KRA defined? Okay, nothing from this side, only 2% from this side. Do you know you are being evaluated on the defined goal setting and KRA? Now raise your hand. Do you know you get the increment based on the same goal setting in KRA? And what do you do actually, right? So this food for a thought. What do you do today? First of all, to large extent, you know, but you don't know what you are supposed to do. You don't know what you are supposed to be evaluated on. You don't know what you are supposed to get the increment on, right? Okay, so obviously technology can really help, and we always follow a business leader, ki boss compliances meet karo. You know, make sure, you know, all the employee need to have a goal setting up to 90% in the system and all. That really doesn't happen. And the same thing, we are getting a feedback. HR himself, herself do not know on all this point. With technology, I have a very interesting story. You know this personal touch and digital touch? When you go to business leader, they will say, okay, we need to have personal touch. But when you talk something in a detail, they will tell you, everything should be automated, digitalization, right? So one way they will say everything you make, everything digitalization, then another day and second day they will say, there has to be some personal touch. Yeah, so you should be leader to guide them, you know, up to what level, when it has to be personal touch and technology touch, okay?
Thank you, Ashish. Coming to table 3, I need a mic here. All right, so topic for table 3 is lack of employee engagement. Do we have a team leader here?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Jayant Seshadri, and I'm head HR for a company called Kuwai, which is a fintech platform. The topic given to us is lack of employee engagement. It is a very broader topic to discuss because it is not only we discussed internally what are the challenges, but every company has a challenge in terms of engaging the employee workforce. So basically, if you see, employee engagement is, you know, the kind of connect that employees have towards the company and with the fellow colleagues. And basically, today, employees or the new joinees are thinking about how their life is going to change when we join in this company. For example, if it is an XYZ company, the employees are not first checking what is the JD of the role that they are applying for, or anything else. Maybe those are the things that they are checking, but JD are something most of now is a cut copy paste kind of JD. But basically they go and see life at XYZ. For example, if you go to LinkedIn, there is about the company or the jobs that is there, people there. But again, there is a tab called life. So what is that portraying? How their life can change when they join the company. So that is one of the important thing. And there are many ways to address the employee engagement issues. The first and foremost being how much of the touch points, employee touch points that we can establish. So how we can leave the employee aloof. There are two options, or we can touch the employees at various points. So for example, if a new joinee is coming there and after 30 days, what are the touch points for him? So have we gone back to them and asked about the employee engagement survey, the new joinee survey, or the onboarding experience? So have we gone to them? So after 30 days, then there is a 60-day, 90 days period. So the first 90 days is the one where employee gets connected to the company, and it can create a lasting impact in the minds of the employee. So what are the touch points we are doing? How many are physical touch points? How many are digital touch points? And and how soon we are collecting the information and acting on those areas. Then how do we build a culture which is in line with the our company? So how do we identify the cultural amplifiers and work on those? For example, if it is a teamwork, that is the one which we are looking at. So how do we do that? Those areas has to be looked into. So talking about the touch points, there is another important aspect is the communication channels. For example, if there is an employee engagement, if there is an employee recognition program, erstwhile we used to have one employee recognition, and it gets forgotten very easily. So I get a certificate, we don't know who got the certificate. Now employers are establishing the platform for employee engagement, which actually looks like a Facebook also. right? So and so, Sritej just got a award. So that goes for the entire year because every now and then you can go and who has recognized. So there is a peer recognition platform that is also available. So I can appreciate my friend over here saying that with an evidence-based, why I am giving it, with a storyline to it. So still that can be part of that employee engagement or a employee recognition platform. How digitally transforming we on the employee engagement. The other aspect is employees should also look into the development needs. There are various development needs. So we also have to identify the customized learning interventions for the better employee engagement. Right. So these are the things that we had a quick discussion about.
Great.
Thank you.
Those were great points. So just to quickly summarize, there were a lot, so I really can't read it. So on employee engagement, right? So whatever Sir said was absolutely on point. What I would like to add here is, if we talk about employee engagement, the big problem that lies today is that within an organization, every single employee has its own unique personality, their own way of pursuing life, and their own journey of what made them reach there. So when everybody has different aspirations, different personality, the same kind of engagement programs that the budgets that we pursue, right? Like let's say coffee or table tennis or the tournaments or cultural programs that we run, will they be able to engage this diversified crowd that we have? It's practically impossible, right? So we as a technology did whatever we could. I would like to bring on some of those points here. In terms of Keka as a platform, what we did was that we have an expressions wall on our platform where people can easily come, share posts, share, and build communities, right? Building these communities can actually help us in figuring out that what kind of people, what different kind of communities run within the company and what we should do for them. The other thing is that we brought in continuous feedback just to make sure that just like you highlighted, right? So every now and then if there is an award recognition or something required to be given, somebody's doing a good job and an appreciation is required to be given to them, the people have that power on their mobile application to send a good feedback to somebody, right? So features like this, we always were building just to make sure that people become a lot more expressive with business, right? They should be able to express their line of thoughts, their interests, and that is something which is our addition to this. But in terms of the way I look at it, the organizations need to do a lot, right? So we as HR community are required to look into our people, the type of people that they are, and then probably design a program for them. So thank you very much for all the points. We'll move to the table number 4.
Kshitij, can I ask you?
Please.
Let's hear from them. Do you think we overdo employee engagement? Okay. But do you know what we are supposed to do? Because I think it is more of checklist.
No.
Okay, let me hear from others.
No.
Anybody? Okay, raise your hand. Do you think we overdo employee engagement, or do we know how to do the employee engagement? Do we assess properly what is to be done in employee engagement? Do we have the data? Or other than only the Friday evening, we need to do something and all? Okay.
So you have a lot of things in employee engagement. It is not only rewards and recognitions, but you'll have to make sure how the employee is engaged with business goals, the vision of the organization. There's a lot more added to it. So you are right. Mostly the perception initially was Friday fun activities, because that's how HR was portrayed earlier, stating employee engagement is like only fun activities at work.
Correct. So you are there to some extent. Do we have employee engagement framework in the organization? Let me ask the question. The framework, I'm asking for a framework. I'm not asking for the Friday fun activity or party. Yes,
yeah,
madam.
Ashish, I would like to just add a couple of rejoinders to what he said. I think you summed it up very well. Primarily, I think disengagement sets in when an individual is not fully utilized or occupied. Invariably when the right man in the wrong job or the wrong person in the right job, right? So I think it's fundamentally HR's job to see to it that the skills are utilized and the individual is fully there with the organization, right there with the goals of the organization, alignment. When that doesn't happen, any amount of fun, dance, Friday evenings or Monday mornings is not going to help. Therefore, as a sequel to that engagement, I think I would like to take this thought or this cliched statement of, fun is always what is construed as enjoyment into a different realm called learning, right? As long as an individual sees value on a day-to-day basis, he's engaged. It is HR's job to see to it that there is value from the employee to the organization and vice versa. So that's my take on engagement.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do we know employee are disengaged? Do we know employee are disengaged?
Yeah, we have surveys today, we have moodometers to capture
But do
they
we know,
feel.
I agree with everything, but do we know employee are disengaged? Raise your hand. Agree, all the point are okay. Do we have the data that employee are disengaged?
Not completely, I would say.
Yes.
It's an assumption.
Yeah,
And in
agree.
fact, engagement is, we are overdoing because there is a lot of peer pressure for HR. Okay, LinkedIn or your Instagram or Facebook is throwing a lot of peer pressure for HR just because other companies are doing. Sometimes we do. We don't even know whether it suits our industry. We don't even know whether it suits the kind of people we are working with. For example, I work with a financial services, and then if I'm going to just pick up technology related engagement initiatives and force them to do a bay decoration where they don't have a bay to sit. Yeah, so this is how things are, and it becomes a checklist for us, and we don't have a choice. Probably sometimes it's forced and added to our OKRs, and we don't have a choice. But when we go back, if we are going to be like a pizza guy and then have our base ready, but the topping should be based on what they want, rather than just delivering what we like. So I don't think so all of us have the data. We assume that we have a data, but we don't.
Yeah, because there is a lot of peer pressure. Huh? Okay, because one of my HR, CHRO is doing this 10 things, let me do, few things, right? Okay, or as I build up something to show my performance, can I come up and doing like this? Okay, I'm in the city of Chennai, the Chennai, what is IPL team name?
Chennai
Super King. Okay, tell me the name of the player whom you hardly know in Chennai Super King. Any name? Okay, so guess any name. Do you know that player need engagement in the team, right? That player may be needed engagement in the team, correct? Raise your hand. The player which is unknown and just making entry need engagement, correct? My next question, do you need Dhoni need engagement? No. So you need to please understand, in the organization, who are players like Dhoni, everybody cannot be but close to that. Yeah, those people don't need engagement, please understand. I have seen the reaction from the employee. They says, oh, if HR is telling them to do the engagement, they have funny reaction. Let me do my work, boss. Why you are calling me to do all this? Yeah, you get this kind of reaction in every then and now. So please understand who are player, very unknown, and who are player like Dhoni or close to Dhoni.
Right, I don't entirely agree to that, Ashish. But yeah, if you look at it, like ideally, performers, right? They are self-accountable. They understand what is supposed to be done, and they're self-motivated to do whatever is required to be done. They make aggressive and ambitious plans for themselves, but in a 9-box grid, there is not only one grid which exists. We have everybody, and everybody is an equal part of the organization and supposed to drive impact and value through their work. So the engagement probably might not be, cannot really turn the table, whichever way you want. There are, but it's again one of the tools that we have as HR community to make sure that people stay out there, right, with us. Align with our purpose and eventually, stick with us for a longer period and with a more honesty and soul that they have. So that's where, employee engagement runs. There is an essential need of it, Ashish, right? So don't just...
Another funny thing, this employee engagement survey. Anybody doing the employee engagement survey nowadays? Some of you, right? Now we do the employee engagement survey on the some population, right? Let's assume 1,000, 2,500. By the time survey is out, result is out, more than 50% people already left the company. Then you are implementing the action plan on whom? We don't know whether they are supposed to be part of that action plan or not, because their needs are different. They might tell you, okay, this is not what I'm looking for. So this assessment is also needed. Yeah, thank you so much. Kshitij, next table.
Perfect. We'll go to the next table. Do we have a leader here? Right.
Good evening to 100 present here. I am Devanand, going to summarize the topic for the given team. My topic given is to key analytics to manage in HR. Actually, analytics HR with regards to each and every HR functions, it differs. So generally, I'm going to sum up the various concepts. With regards to recruitment, first we need to do a strategic workforce planning. It's not just a position is there, we need to fill, that's it. So in a rapidly changing dynamic environment, the automation is also growing at a rapid rate. For example, we are seeing about how ChatGPT AI is going to change the workforce near upcoming areas. Of course, ChatGPT AI has also cleared the Harvard University exam, but it failed in the UPSC exam. So machination is not fully accountable. Both combination of a human as well as automation together it must work. Then with regard to the budgeting and assimilation rate. So when you have recruited an employee, you must see that how well he is going to assimilate. So with regards to onboarding systems, it's not that he had been recruited, he must be there for that. So the organization must lay out a proper plan in such a way that they must chart out a yearly plans to the employees that these are the changes we are going to make. These are the expected outcomes so that the new employee retention rate is high and the attrition rate is reduced. Then we got to learning and development. Then we need to do a proper skill gap analysis so that what are the technologies the individual is capable of handling so that it could be useful in future and it can be adopted to the company. And then return on investment through a properly designed training programs and then measuring the return on investment on training through various techniques such as Kirkpatrick model, reaction learning, behavior results, etc. Then with regards to talent management, with regards to talent retention, we need to focus about employees' value proposition. How well it's a combination of both monetary and non-monetary rewards could be designed so that the employee is satisfied and the talent retention of an organization is high so as to reduce the turnover rate. It must be a properly designed hybrid model so that it must be satisfying one. Then with regards to performance management system, the system of performance management system should not be like measure and then attribute to the performance. It must contribute to the behavioral modification and enhancement of an individual employee so that he could work for the organization welfare and development. Then employee engagement. It is rightly said that a productive employee, engaged employee is a productive employee. Organization strives for employees engagement so as to improve the happiness quotient. For example, recently with regards to employee engagement, organizations are working on a concept called employee net promotion score. So that how well is the existing employee is good enough to recommend to the other employees of the other organization about their goodness, and it's measured using a percentage of promoters and detractors. So with the combination of all these techniques, organization we can excel through a proper HR, designing a proper HR matrices and executing it. Thank you.
Okay, so this great topic, HR analytics, right?
Yeah, key analytics to managing HR across different HR functions.
Okay, you know, so it remind me that data is new currency. Correct? We are saying data is most important, right? Yes. Yeah? And you know, without data you are nothing. You agree? Okay, so tell me how many of you have gone and done some course in HR analytics? Okay, 6. Okay, so not going in double digit overall. So out of I think 100 people, only 10% of people. And if I go outside in a overall HR community, so this percentage may be reduced. So spend some time, take out some time and do some courses on HR analytics. That's very important because without data you are nothing. Every time you go to manager and manager saying, or business guy saying, can you show me the data? This is a common statement, right? You know why they say? So they get a more time. Because I know you are not going to give data in just half an hour and 1 hour. But guys, with the technology, it is possible. With the HR dashboard, and we hardly use the HR dashboard. Right, Kshitij? People not using HR dashboard in HRMS or any kind of HR platform, technology platform. Please use as much as HR dashboard, and you need to know the analytics also. I'm not saying you should be more technical guy, but if you are not having some kind of analytics mindset, then obviously, you are sitting absolutely behind the seat and then no room for you in the boardroom or somewhere, where the business people are asking some data. Business guy, the CXO people, the CEO, they will just say, show me the data.
Key analytics, right? Now, to talk about analytics, this has been, I've been running a masterclass for a while on analytics. So quick hacks for everybody, right? So Keka is a plug-and-play analytics tool, right? We come with all the segments of analytics which are required by every different function. So if you look at the maturity models of analytics, always starts with descriptive analytics. Then we eventually drill down to the diagnostic analytics about the history of how did organization do. Then we come to the prescriptive and then predictive analytics, right? So all these analytics are again, right? Why do we do it? Why would HR as a department do it? Because there has been a colloquial question which is being asked to us every day is how do we make to that business table where all the different CXOs are sitting, right? A lot of times the intel that we have for business is not really that beautiful or that impactful that it requires to be discussed there. So HR, the only possible way which we frankly understand so far is the analytics is the way forward. It will help your organization take more data-driven decisions rather than if it's not data-driven, it's more of a fuzzy thinking, right? It comes with an experience that, if you look at it, the work is one way or the other getting done. Even if you don't do a course on HR analytics, nobody can challenge the experience that you carry on solving these problems from day-to-day basis. But it's always good to back yourself, to always look the relevance of the strategies, the information that you have. Is it syncing well with the organization data or is people data or not? So now analytics could be of n number of types, right? From people analytics to workforce analytics to manpower analytics, right? So there are, I think it is broken down into 20 or more subject matters now. But from a technology standpoint, how do we look at it, right? We give you plug and play analytics from every single aspect of people that is involved. Be it core HR related analytics, which organization growth and the measures of how your organization is growing with a period of time, right? That is required. You can get that. Attrition analytics is again something very critical, right? What are the top reasons in your organization because of which the resignations or the attrition is happening, right? How many of the attritions are regrettable attritions? How many of them are non-regrettable, right? So all these analytics become extremely easy to drive through Keka because if you conduct the exit interviews, you can capture these analytics seamlessly. Same goes with all and every single module that Keka has today, from expense and travel to the grievances, you can identify that what bugs your people the most. So one great usage which I find in terms of technology is providing today to HRs is giving a top level helicopter view in terms of what's happening in the organization. So great, these were, thank you very much. You actually did cover all the aspects of it. Right, super. So thank you. We'll move to the next table. Is there anything to add here? You want to add something? All right.
Go to the next one. This side.
Ashish, take it. The next.
Okay. Who's the leader? You are never given the topic. Okay, you just give one topic to them. I will come to this table last. Okay, this is the diversity table. He is the diversity man in this table. Okay, who's the leader other than him? Both of us. Okay, yes, madam.
Ma'am, please announce the topic a little better for
Sure.
people.
You wanted to go. Okay, the topic given to us is how is an organization structure critical for HR strategy? So I was under the impression that he will be presenting it. So basically the headcount matters and the communication gap basically to improve the efficiency of the communication between the topmost level, the CEOs or directors, to the frontline developers or whatever based on the field or the department it is. And the next one is better decision making and hiring of the top talents. The third challenge will be assigning the designation or deciding who does what, the role and the priority given to each employee based on where they sit, in which line of leadership or qualification they are in. The next one will be focusing on employee well-being as well. So since it's going to be a hybrid work culture, either from remote work or at office, that also matters based on the organizational structure of the organization. And the purpose of the appraisal or performance is defeated if it is not structured properly. So if the middle management is put up in the top level or the top level is not aligned properly to the focus to the goals, then there arises a problem of appraisal challenges.
Right.
And quite other few discussions we had was based upon setting up a work ethic or a culture and upskilling of learning, talents and developments as well. And last but not the least, the salary fixment also comes in. So wherever they are based on a ladder, we are maybe a new one coming in might be more experienced than the person who is already in there, and we are supposed to give more salary to the person who is already in there. That creates hassles between employees. This is all. Do we have anything left to add on? Pretty much summarized everything.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ashish, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so, I will come back to HRMS again. So, if you ask any HRMS guy, first question he will ask, do you have organization structure ready? You know what is the meaning of that? Yeah, define hierarchy, who's the powerful guy, who signed the offer letter, who gave the increment approval. Yeah, in a lighter note I'm saying, but everybody need to have the organization structure. Yeah, I'm sure, no HRMS company or HR technology company will make organization structure because you know who's your boss, whether boss is really boss, what is supposed to do in terms of XYZ. So this structure need to be kept ready always. Yeah, and then there is something called, who approved what? I don't know, there is a one word. I will come back to that. No, not workflow. And then that data also has to be ready because once it is linked, then probably structure is ready. So I'm more talking about the organization structure, but in terms of HR strategy, your structure has to be ready, in terms of level-wise, band-wise, how many people you are looking for, and then, what's going to happen in next few months, few years and all. Yes, Kshitij, you like to add something?
Not really much. The only reason that we kept organization structure and its importance as a topic was because this is something which gets left over most of the times. We as an HR department could really look into this, but we end up not looking into it. The reason being, every department grows in its own silo, right? There are department heads which are taking care of how they want to operate and keep the structure. There are cost centers, business units, n number of bifurcations, right? Branches, regions, hubs. So that, if you look at it organically, any startup, when it starts growing, the structure is out of control, right? It depends upon the leader, how they want to design it. But later on, it tends to become a problem because without a structure in place, we cannot design a perfect career path for people. And without a proper career path for people to pursue, it's hard for us to retain people for a longer period of time. So it is important that we as HR department bring in those intelligence to the people, the managers, the senior leaders in the organization to understand that what is the criticality of this as an aspect for the business, for us, for our people, right? Those are there, right? Keka does a lot of things here, right? It actually simplifies, again, analytics was the previous topic. If you want to run analytics, none of the analytics can be presented as an organization analytics. It always has to be team-specific, department-specific analytics or cost center-related analytics. All of that depends upon the proper structure if you have in place, right? If there is a flatline structure, if there is a matrix structure, if there is a holacracy structure, if there is a linear structure, there are so many, 16 different kinds of structures, organization structures which exist. The type of policies that you should frame, the kind of rules you should have in the organization depends largely upon the structure that you have. So it's pretty critical for us to be on top of it, right? So that was the major point of adding it here. Thank you very much for the points.
And Kshitij, in IT company, I have seen, there is a one manager who will approve the leave, but then there is another manager who will do the appraisal, right? So that is also has to be defined clearly.
Right. So if you look at it without a structure in place, some transfer happens, some appraisal is happening, right? People are getting transferred from one manager to another, right? When the review starts, it's hard for people to identify that who will rate me, right? Who is going to take a call that if I'm going to get a salary hike or not. So many confusions come in people's head, and it adds to the anxiety that they have, and eventually, all of that leads to a regrettable attrition in the company. So on those standpoints is what I believe it's pretty essential. So we'll sum this up. Thank you very much for all the points. We'll move to the next table, sir. You have your own perfect topic on this, please.
Happy evening. My name is Ponnu Swami. I'm a IR specialist actually. The topic given to us is how can HR assist with employee grievance. I entered this event with the thought I should get some software for handling this employee grievance. When I saw the question, I was really happy. And my team, the couple of guys who came with me, they were also expecting the same thing. Because last week in one of the forums, we were discussing about the software which can record and then give some, transfer the data to the stakeholders on handling employee grievance. So thanks for giving us this topic. Actually, this concept of HR handling or assisting employee grievance itself is, we as a team feel is not right. Because many organizations, many managers think it is the task of HR, human resource team, to handle employee grievance. And the people create the grievance and send the grievance through the employees to HR. So that's what is happening. But it should be the other way. The concerned department heads or department managers should handle the employee grievance. That's what we are doing. Because I am from a manufacturing setup, around 30 years in manufacturing, worked in companies like Unilever and Reckitt, where we have the system of the concerned departmental heads handling grievances. Whereas it is not happening in all manufacturing companies, but these two companies I can vouch it was happening. And even we have a dashboard, because for this employee grievance, we show it in the every monthly meeting in the dashboard, which will reflect what all grievances have been closed and not closed and the reasons. And one of the madam was talking about this performance appraisal. See, generally, that's a big grievance for all employees, because we have to follow this bell curve in many organizations, and the managers put the blame on HR function, telling HR has given only so much percentage of outstanding rating or so much percentage of excellent rating. So it is not my fault. I am willing to rate you as excellent or outstanding, whereas HR function is not allowing. So that is a big grievance actually. And that kills the employee. All of you will agree with it, because I think most of you sitting here are from my fraternity, that is HR fraternity, you will all agree to it. So that, whereas if there's a software or some listing system wherein we can populate the grievances into the system, and it goes to the right stakeholder, and he should be accountable to handle it. If that's the case, it will be better. That's what we felt. And personal touch versus digital touch. I like that statement, and that's true. See, whenever the HR function handles the employee grievance, the functions tell, sir, you should not have the personal touch with that guy. It's only we should have. And whereas share us the data so that we can work on it. But I doubt whether that has been done. Correct, Bharati? Because he has been facing it. The reasons for not closing the grievance, that never gets shared to the employee. And what happens in many organizations, the grievance is being handled only based on the employee's face value. Some employee creates issue, grievance has been addressed immediately. A sober guy like me, my grievance will not be addressed. So that happens. So that should not be there. So there should be a system which handles first in FIFO. First, any grievance that comes first, that should be handled first. Severity is secondary, but whether it should come in first in, first out. That should be done. That's what we all felt. Anything else you want to tell? Thank you.
Great, great points. I think this deserves a clap actually. So, extremely superior points kept here. I really am out of ideas what should I express here. So I'll just stick to the pitch, right? So what Keka does in terms of employee grievance management is that actually gives you that platform where all the essential areas of managing an employee grievance can be managed, right? If you look at the side of it, like there is, whatever sir was saying, right? So few of the aspects which are essential is, one is the severity of the grievance, right? The capability of us to identify that and be precise on that is something which is extremely important. And I think it's the employee which can tell that, what is the degree of pain that the grievance is causing them. So we as a platform will let you decide on that. The other aspect, as he said, is TAT, right? So turnaround time has to be declared properly to people so that, people really come and raise the request. If I end up raising a request which never gets resolved, I will probably try it twice and then, be like, I really don't want to do that. A lot of times I don't go back to support of different vendors that I have just because they might take a lot of time and it's not declared properly, right? So internally, all these declarations, we as a platform, as soon as an employee generates a ticket, could be any category, you can create categories. Every business has its own areas where the grievances are. So identifying that and then creating those categories with the responsible TAT and connecting those categories with the right set of stakeholders which can immediately take a call on it, right? Is something which our platform will provide you as a capability. The other thing that it does is the escalations and reminders, right? So those are two very important things, and the analytics, of course. So all these three aspects where, like let's say if some problem is not being solved on time, you can always, the system will automatically escalate it to the second level authority, right? So all these aspects can be handled very well through the help desk or the grievance addressal module that we have created. So that is all. Any points that you have, sir?
In fact,
yes.
this HR should be only facilitator and the concerned stakeholders should resolve it. If it is not being resolved, that should be highlighted during his performance. So that way what happens, they take it seriously. Otherwise they ignore it actually.
Right. So
They should
if you
link to
look at it like
performance.
the kind of performance that you had on the category that is mapped to you as a owner, right? Like let's say I could be maybe a travel related grievances, whatever you have, I am managing that as a category. If I'm not following my TAT, Keka is going to make sure that you have those metrics displayed out there well, that, you know, are the people really doing it on time or not, right? So it also brings in accountability in terms of to the owners of the processes, right? So that's another benefit that is there.
Kshitij, I have noticed HR people do raise grievance very less. And there is a fear that if HR people doing the grievance, you know, it will be in limelight and then, you know, either increment or something will happen. You agree? Tell me, when did you raise the grievance in your portal last time? Be very open and frank. Versus the employee who are... Pardon?
See,
So as good as, you know, you haven't done it actually, right?
see, our grievance will not be addressed because people tell you are the person custodian of addressing the grievance, so your grievance will not be addressed.
No, there is somebody inside the HR who's not pushing HR to raise the grievance. You know, and to large extent we are compromising with most of the situation. You talk to yourself, you will get to know. We are not very vocal about our own grievances. There is a pin drop silence, I know. Madam want to say something, yeah.
Reason today I do not know about the MSME organizations as much, but then in the larger organizations, you do have an HR for HR.
Correct.
You know, so it does happen. It does happen, and it is in place. So maybe that needs to be percolated down to the MSMEs also.
Right, so percolation to SME, MSME as a segment is pretty difficult because, you know, again, the budgets that we have during that phase, right? Yes. So when it's smaller in size, it's a lot of time it's hard for you know, HRs to drive all the things that they can as a possibility, right? So the idea of building a tech, when we designed this hire to retire tech, which can take care of all your people ops, was just to make sure that this optimization and all these tools essentially are available at your end to be executed as one single individual itself. So that is the kind of degree, you know, like that we actually looked at it. But again, you know, the problem over what Ashish was highlighting, I believe it's very real because, you know, you can have an HRBP for HR department to really look into the concerns and stuff
And
like that.
I'm less concerned about the ecosystem. Every company, everything in this world has some system where you can take care, you know, of XYZ. But more important thing is people not assertive. Within the HR,
Has to come from within.
yeah.
You know, so whether you are in the business or in the HR or in the finance, any department, doesn't matter.
And this come from the top level, huh? This come from the CHRO, this come from the HR leadership. If they are not very vocal in the boardroom, if they are not very vocal in front of the business manager, then by default, entire team is thinking like this, ki boss, if I do something, I will be brought it down. Yeah, so request to all CHRO. How many CHRO in this room? They will not raise the hand, I know. Okay, very sensitive topic. Huh? Let's go to the next one.
Right, so in my experiences, I would beg to differ. Being an HR tech provider, I speak to HRs and the problems that they have, right? So those grievances, we have been fairly, you know, I think we have more than 700 custom requests waiting on us, which are these problems and grievances that they have with the tool, right? So that's, you know, I think they express, right? But as a department or HR as a position, it's pretty hard to find out that who should we be talking to in terms of our problems. I think business table is the one, right, where these talks should happen, and I think they still happen.
And Kshitij, HR is dealing with so much of problem, they can raise almost, you know, 10 to 15 requests every day.
Yeah, true, very
Each
real.
one.
Talk about employee using abusive language on the floor, right? and somebody raises it, we take an action immediately stating don't use abusive language. But you see CEOs speaking the same F languages during the CXO meetings. And you as a HR head, you are not supposed to raise it. Right? I'm not talking about the organization which I'm right now working in. So you are absolutely to the dot that HRs are taken as a leverage in a CXO, where you don't really raise it. You cannot go and say a CSO, hey, come on, don't use the abusive language. And you will get terminated, not him. So that's how it is. I mean, that's reality.
Yeah,
We should accept.
So word of caution, okay, understand your culture and people. It's okay to speak in such conference, but the culture is different, people are different. So take your decision. It's okay if you don't say anything. Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
And I think we should not have the hard feelings on this. Dhande ki bhasha
Yes,
is a little brutal, sir. We can't change that.
This is not recorded, by the way. Sir, you are working or not? Okay, he's not working. Great. Okay, who's the next one?
All right, so that brings me to the next table. Do we have a leader?
Okay, thank you. So my name is Ari Haran. I'm from Beyond Technologies, from the head of the team. So thanks to the team for nominating me. So I'm going to cover the topics which was already discussed, but it should not be a monotonous one. But to summarize the topics which was discussed right now, I would like to open up a point here. Every individual is unique, right? So everybody is unique, and maybe we, and the same way, companies are also unique. So we should understand each company is unique, and each and every individual who joins the company is also unique. So the differences and the similarities, that has to be brought into picture. And when we say about HRMS, that tool has to be unique, and it has to be customizable for each and every company which it works for. So that is the first point. And knowing the employee is the second point. So knowing your employee and how to surprise. And did we surprise our employees? Can we take this point? Did we surprise the employees, our employees, for the last 3 months or 6 months? Is it through rewards and recognitions or the normal ways for doing it? Do we see some more solutions to this point? Have we ever surprised our employees? So this is the second point which I would like to quote to the Keka forum. And how do you identify simple and effective techniques in HRMS? So be it the UI or be it the normal works. So the UI has to be framed in such a way that it should be easy for anybody to see and understand. That's another point which because most of the HRMS which I have worked is like more complex. It's not easy for an employee to understand and apply a leave also. So it should be made more simple for anybody to use. And happiness index is another point which I want to talk. Happiness index, we were talking about employee engagement, we were talking about how to set up a culture, we were talking about organizational hierarchy, but happiness index is one other point. So we can take it an example from our family. So have we ever thought about our family members are happy or not? The same applies to the company also. Have we ever checked on a survey? Will that survey be so very efficient? We really don't know. In the same way, happiness index has to be brought into picture in any HRMS tool. It should be some way or the other more effective rather than a survey like an employee puts on a mandatory note and fills it. So it should not be like that, and it should bring more meaning to it. Like, for example, if you go for a shop and if you put a feedback, happy, normal, and sad. So that is a way of customer feedback. The same way, employee feedback should be honest. So how are we going to create such UI or a kind of a thing to note down and drive the analytics the way forward, and how to help organizations to retain better talents? So that is another point which I would like to take it to the HRMS forum. Yeah.
All right. So we have problems. Anybody would want to answer these? So topic once again, what are the key metrics to improve for HR department? Anybody would want to take a dig at it?
When it comes to HR, at the end of the day, the function becomes relevant only when it makes meaning to the business and, working to solve businesses' problems. So I think whatever metrics is central, this is my view, to businesses' performance, those are the ones you take up. Be it in terms of, what the function's after and, tracking closely, because unless you put it down and you measure, you will never be able to improve on it. So whether it's the systems, whether it is what you are putting out to measure, or what is it that you're driving as a culture, what you're willing to talk about, take it up to, senior level conversations. Now, if you look at it, consider what's happening around, right? You have so much of challenge in terms of talent coming in, and it's like a revolving door. I mean, I know that industry is going through a downturn, but still, you see that there's a great resignation. It still is very applicable to India. So what's the quality of hiring that you're doing, right? What's the quality of onboarding and enablement and, assimilation on culture, assimilation on the role that you're doing in the first 3 months? Because then it becomes meaningful and relevant to the individual, right? What's the level of meaningful engagement that you're doing on giving insights and understanding in terms of, someone talked about self-accountability, I think it was you, right? How do you empower the individual to have the tools to kind of further their career on their own, right? Take those different paths, because organizations provide all kinds of flexible paths today if you're willing to see and create and carve your own path. And of course, how do you also look at performance? Because performance today is something, I mean, none of us are working only 9 hours a day. We're working, all through the day, right? How are you kind of ensuring that performance is translated? I mean, you have activity and you have outcomes, right? So how is it that performance is measured along outcomes? So I think if you look at these 3 things, how well you're assimilating your talent, those who've come in, and how, and those who've been in the system for a while, how well are you engaging people to kind of create their own paths, to, sort of look at flexible paths, and how well are you ensuring that performance and true metrics are, designed around it. I think those 3 should be sufficient. Everything else that we work around, because I think if you look at these 3, then the other issues that you're having around retaining, talent walking out, even grievances. I think, if it's a very engaged workforce who have the kind of comfort to walk up to leaders, to be able to have that conversation wherever you need to solve the problems, I think many of it gets solved. Thank you.
So there is a very thin line between HR metrics. This Kshitish topic is about HR metrics, right?
HR metrics, which
so there is a thin line between HR metrics and HR goal setting. So you might have 3 top level 3 goals, but it doesn't mean that they can fall in HR metrics. So please understand that gap also, because you may say this is the metrics, I want to give a priorities, but that cannot be part of your goal setting as a number 1.
Right, ma'am. Do we have a leader here?
Thank you. I'm Veena Sriram. I work for Guardian Life in Chennai. The topic given to us was how to build the right culture in the organization. Most of it has been said by many of the people here who have already addressed it to quite an extent. But then what we as a team felt is culture comes when you define the vision or the goal statement of an organization. It is top driven. How the boss or the key man of the organization wants his organization to look like. So culture comes from there. Culture is also for all the employees to be working towards a common goal. How are we able to drive it? And to be able to ensure that we have the right culture in place, the first and the foremost is to have a very healthy learning environment in the organization, where we can look at talent management, talent, carving the talent for building future leaders, retention, and of course, addressing the big challenge of attrition and everything, And this also will be able to help us drive inclusivity. Ashish kept talking about this table being inclusive. And I, for one, can be the best person talking about this topic is because I lead the inclusion and transformation at Guardian from India. So, culture is inclusion, not just the sex ratio, it is the differences between the age gaps that we're looking at, the mindsets that we're looking at, the physical challenges that people could have, everything. Inclusion includes everything. Your parity in your lifestyle, which income group are you from? Inclusion is everything. Culture talks about that. And last but not the least, the values of an organization drive the culture. Well, I had Teko give us a very beautiful quadrant where the organization is all about flexibility, interdependence, stability, and independence.
Can you
I
repeat
repeat,
that once? Yeah.
flexibility, interdependence, stability, and independence, which will be able to help drive the purpose, the safety, authority, and the learning in an organization.
Beautiful. Right. So I think those were pretty well explained again, right? So we, as a platform, what do we do here, right? We have a values framework defined, a core values framework defined in our platform, which kind of declares, from a top-down approach itself, the leaders have to define like the kind of behaviors or the values that the people should have in them, the values they should inhibit the, in terms of dealing with people inside the organization or outside the organization, right? So from that standpoint, like the values framework, once it starts running, people can, any kind of incident that happens, they can record those in terms of mapping it against the values that you have. Now these values, again, vary from organization to organization. For certain, operations-based organization, it would be, could be punctuality, right? Could be discipline, integrity, focus, right? So many of them are there, but it depends on business that what exactly is required. Values, again, is something which I essentially would want to, bring the focus on in terms of, the value that it eventually brings into the table for the business. So thank you very much. We'll move to the next table in interest of time. I think I see few
How
people
many,
yawning.
Kshitij, let's do the time check. How many tables left? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This is done, right? So 4, right? Total 4. Yeah.
All right. What is the topic?
Thank you. So myself, Vinita, I work with Bot VFX as HR manager, and today I'm going to present the topic, challenges to measure employee satisfaction. So representing my team members, Ramesh, Hari, Dilip, Nivash, Varsha, and Dinesh Babu. So the top 5 challenges that we feel is that the participation count. So basically we expect a 100% participation in the employee survey satisfaction to measure their satisfaction, but what we receive on an average is around 70 to 75%. So we are not able to capture 100% of what exactly the employee feels. So that is one challenge. The next one is being anonymous. So most of the survey forms or the employee satisfaction is taken into consideration on an anonymous basis where exact data we are not able to collect. So pinpointing to the pain areas is quite difficult. And transparency over the answers, basically the parameters, I think someone highlighted saying that you have 3 scale or 5 scale saying good, bad and all. So you don't have the exact answers to your questions. And the third point being the demographics, where diversified crowds of different age group and different gender or levels of people. So you don't exactly get to measure the reality. And the fourth point is quantifying it, basically converting the data into actionable process or bringing in a solution to it. That is a challenge that we face. And the final point is hybrid or virtual working, which we are all currently adapting to. So, earlier we preferred talking to the artist in person and getting to know their employee satisfaction ratio. Of course, now everything is turning into a data-driven part. Now that personal touch is not there. Of course, it's a mix of both. You cannot just depend on the digital platforms to, collect the data. Only when you are on the floor, you actually get the pulse of the, audience. So that is one challenge that we are facing. So that's all.
Right, so they were pretty illustrative and very practical, I would say. I would like to take that. Right, so challenges to measure employee satisfaction. Anybody would like to give a solution to all the problems that we heard right now? Sure, so, right, employee satisfaction is a tricky space to be in, right, for sure. Because again, anything could actually lead to a downfall of satisfaction, right? Largely it is absence of a career path, right, that is there. Along with that, in terms of if it takes away my my conveniences of working, then again it's a problem. So anybody, I will again be specific. The question which is still open is that hybrid or work from home or work from office. What is the solution to this? Anybody has a practical solution of what should we be telling our people? Because I don't have it. Hybrid is the way forward. And how do we find a balance to that?
Well, it also depends on the kind of organization which is defining it. Because there are some companies where hybrid is okay, but the service industries, you probably need people back at work. And again, are you prepared to let go certain people? Because today, the flexibility element which has set in, right? People look forward to working remote. Some of them don't even want to do hybrid. So how does an organization find a balance? I suppose is a function of the kind of businesses they are in and what elements of work can be sort of done from home in the interest of security. Because today with cyber security, going all over the place, I suppose that's something the organization has to decide.
Right. So yeah, that's the practical solution I think the word has come down to, right? Which is being democratic in understanding what do you need, right? And then being autocratic in terms of what we ask people to do. So, it is a tricky space, right? The word went through a phenomenal experience in its own right. So in terms of that has changed things, right? It's going to take time. I don't think there is an accurate answer to this, right? We cannot really think of a solution on this and then, place that template. There is a point to add here. I'll take the mic there.
So it's also about the career path that you want to have, right? Because remote working is not going to work for certain employees. If you want to be a manager, for example, remote working is not going to work, right? So there are some employees, like for example, today you have housewives coming to work, as an example. They're not interested in, they're just interested in having a career, forgetting about whether they want to become a manager or so on and so forth, right? So you'll have to define it based upon what is the career path that individual wants to have. And tailor make it and look at that as a part of the path of the organization and whether that would match each other. In fact, in Oracle, where I worked, people can become vice presidents, believe it or not, being individual contributors.
True.
This was a very interesting thing that I saw in Oracle. I'm talking a long time back, but this was a very interesting thing they did. So organizations have to adapt and come and give individual contributors who could be very good technically, right? I mean, they may not be very good in interacting and stuff like that, but they could be very good technically. But they should have a clear path of them becoming vice presidents too.
Right. Yeah, so in terms of, just to conclude this, what we can do here, Keka has a pulse module in it, right? Where on the all critical aspects of employee satisfaction, right? It could be the relationship with manager, it could be employee happiness index, it could be employee growth, right? So there are so many aspects which makes an organization a great place to work. You can conduct those surveys. The platform will send you the triggers and analytics in terms of tracking it down for you. Any point of time, the metrics are going down in terms of happiness indexes of people or whatever satisfaction scores. The system will at least give a trigger to the right set of people so that we can actually take certain initiatives in that direction. So largely, again, it will vary from organization to organization. Even the set of questions for a survey will vary from organization to organization. So to practically give a solution on this, I'm really bowled out on that. So thank you very much for all the problems that we have here. We could probably have a more meaningful conversations after the roundtable on this. Thank you, Vinitha. Right, so I'll go to the next table, please, ma'am.
All right. I was just watching the keenness of everybody, and I thought we'll begin here. We'd like to introduce our table. I'm Sabita. I represent an organization which is in the fintech space. We are called Market Simplified. And right here, I would love to introduce my team members to all of you. We call ourselves, you've all heard of 5G, but we are the 5S and 1G. So that's, Selvamani, just wave out. Selvamani, Sumitra, Sharad, Sudhakar, Gokul, and I. Okay, the topic given to us is around lack of clarity in performance expectations. A very nice topic, right? Lack of clarity in performance expectations. So we thought we'll just dissect this a bit before we go into the notes, which is, to us, clarity of expectation revolves around 5 broad areas. There's clarity of behavioral expectations, clarity in expected results, clarity in expected quality, clarity in expected priorities, and in timelines and deadlines. So this is how we would like to, sort of dissect this topic. Predominantly, it's all about, for example, if you felt if near enough is not good enough, are we communicating it on time to our people, rather than just faulting them towards the end of a cycle because we need to do a tick in the box. So thereon, the fundamental reasons that this group felt were around flawed goal setting in the first place, right? So it's all about, inadequate communication, not really visiting the KRAs and KPAs or revisiting the KRAs and KPAs every now and then, right? And we do not clearly define outcomes. So this is actually what leads to a failure of any individual from a performance perspective. So, we're talking about mid-course correction. How do we bring in fortnightly feedback as against just waiting for quarterly feedback and annual appraisals? Those are processes which probably were in vogue years ago, decades ago. But today, with the onset of remote working, a hybrid workforce, where engagement itself is questioned because there's not much of face-to-face happening. So can we have clearly defined outcomes? Again, examples that came in, Sudhakar brought in this example of Uber, right? When somebody does well, we have an immediate satisfaction score. So can we bring in something like that for every milestone that an individual achieves? Therein comes our mantra of the 4 C's. So we need to work towards a culture of clarity, a culture of consistency, and creating a robust career path as an outcome of these. Right? And again, yet another thought was around one of the reasons for lack of clarity could be not capturing feedback from the previous assignment managers. So in the kind of industry we are from in IT, whenever there is a movement, because every project milestone gets over, an individual has multi-bosses or reporting supervisors. So what normally happens is they try to get fit into the bell curve of the new team they get into, right? Ashish's terminology of inclusivity is all gone to the winds because it's all about how do I protect my team and how do I put them up in the bell curve. Sadly enough, the person who's coming in without an end of assessment rating loses out. So lack of clarity there. Again, not really measuring actual versus target goals because we said it's got to be milestone based. Moving on quickly, are we reinforcing good performance by rewarding on time and sort of reiterating the expected behavior? So when we say, one of the results, I spoke about behavioral expectations hampering, clarity. It's very subjective interpretation, right? So what may be very good with some individual may not be acceptable to someone else when it comes to behaviors. So how do we define those with clarity before commencement of the assignment? Again, how do we eradicate or eliminate the biases around the halo effect, right? Perception-based feedback which is given. Because you see, when we have a poor performer assigned to somebody, right? Pushing away one's monkey to another team, it doesn't help the individual, right? So the perception sort of, follows him like a shadow, which is sad. So they say, well, you're an underperformer there, so right now I'm going to put you here, not assign him something good, not making him feel inclusive into the team. It could be also another deterrent. And again, do we analyze the real reasons for someone's performance faltering? I think many a time we are so busy trying to close a cycle, and all of us have also been instrumental in just accepting feedback the way it comes. So we need to really assess the quality of feedback that is being put in the cycle as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That was pretty much an order, actually. If you look at it, a faulty goal setting is where it all begins, right? Now, faulty goal setting could be on multiple aspects. Probably the people do not have the muscle to do the proper goal settings, right? We didn't train them on the concepts of performance management. Or it could be the type of goal setting methodology that you have chosen, right? OKRs, KRA, KPI, MBO, balanced scorecard, so many of options available. Do our people really know about them? Do they understand what SMART goals are? How to write specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goals, right? So providing people with the right set of clarity in terms of how the goal should be written is something which should get the first step right? Once the first step comes out right, I think, it's more like a change management itself, right? So first few steps you take blinded and then you move on that direction and then eventually everything starts becoming clear. So thank you very much, Sabita. These were great points.
Kshitij, one clarity we always need to give it to employees, the difference between take home versus actual salary. If we are able to achieve this, then everything is taken care. This is always big joel or I don't know, big confusion. Okay, we go to next table. I don't know, Kshitij, what is the time left? Kshitij, what is the time left? We have two tables.
So we have last 5 minutes. So we'll just quickly take the summary from. Is there a table leader?
Hi, this is Gauri Shankar. I am representing company Swiss Garnier. We are already using Keka HR. And here my topic was how to improve the travel and reimbursement experience. So first, in travel and reimbursement experience, we are facing the challenges. There will be no prior plan, and many of the meetings will be at the last uncertainty. Then travel and accommodation cost comparison with different websites in the online when we are facing that. After that, the approval chain link of each and every organization. These are the challenges we are facing in the each and every organization. So first, to improve these things, we have to devise a proper plan with all the teammates, like individual concerned departments. After that, there will be every company having the designation criteria. What is the maximum amount they can spend for the travel and reimbursement expenditure for the particular criteria peoples. After that, how we will share with the employees, because sometimes when employees are going for any emergency purpose, they will forget to bring their tickets and passes, those things. So we have to address these of the issues. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, you want to travel?
Sorry?
Do you want to travel? Raise a request?
No.
Okay, I think we can go to the next table looking at the time. Travel and reimbursement.
So we have the last table here. I think we covered this right now. So please.
Hello everybody, my name is Ruben and I take care of the people function at Paperflight. We're a SaaS-based product company. First of all, lovely to be here. Very valuable insights being shared. So thank you so much, Keka, for doing this. I feel that we should have it very often, right? Now I understand that most of you are very tired, some of you are hungry, and I think there's one more team waiting, right? So I'm going to keep it very short. The topic that we got is how to boost candidate experience while hiring. Now, we got a couple of insights, right? Now, but my key takeaway from this discussion was that HR challenges are universal, right? Now, you might sit in one corner of the country thinking that this is something that will only happen in my company, but you will have your fellow counterpart sitting in the other corner of the country going through the same challenge, right? So HR challenges are universal, and it's very nice, or sometimes it's very relieving to see other, fellow brothers sharing the same concern, right? Now, our first challenge is hiring panel availability. Now, you might carry a conversation forward with a candidate, very good experience. You might set up an interview, might say for 5:30, and say around 5:25, the panelist might come and tell you that, hey, I have an important bug to attend to, I have an important meeting to attend, and you might have to reschedule the interview. So this is a very common scenario, and it happens everywhere, right? But it ends up leaving a very bad impression on the candidate, right? And we have had cases where we had to reschedule the interview multiple times in the same day. So now you cannot blame the panelist for doing their work, but at the same time you can't blame the candidate also, right? So you end up taking the blame, but eventually it ends up leaving a very bad impression on the candidate. Second would be the recruiter's bandwidth. Now, you might have one recruiter handling multiple positions in an organization, dealing with multiple candidates on a daily basis. Now, what happens is it's humanly impossible for one person to talk to every candidate on a daily basis or a weekly basis, have frequent conversations. So sometimes you might not have a conversation with a particular candidate for days, for weeks. And eventually the candidate might think that, okay, this person or this company is not really interested in me or not really valuing me, and they end up having a very bad impression. They end up feeling bad about the company. Third would be, this is a typical startup case. Now, you have your overqualified candidate, but on the other hand, you have your interviewer who might be, say, 4 years experience, but the candidate might be 7 years experience. And after the interview, the candidate might say, hey, this person's not really qualified to interview me. I don't want to continue this process. I'm not really interested in continuing this or taking this interview forward. Now, I have gone through it a couple of times in my personal journey, and I'm pretty sure many of you have gone through that as well. Now, another thing would be the issue in understanding the JD, right? Now, as recruiters or as HRs, most of us are not very tech savvy, or at least some of us are not very tech savvy, or maybe not tech savvy enough, right? And your candidate might not read the JD, he might just apply, he might apply for 10 jobs, and then during the call, he might ask you, which company is it, what is the JD, what am I going to do there? And if you don't have a clear understanding of the JD, you might not be able to explain. And you might start fumbling, you might look for answers, and then you will eventually end up saying, hey, the team will get back to you, right? Which never usually happens, right? So that's another scenario. And then, now before I get to the next point, I just want to narrate an anecdote. So recently I was part of a discussion where this facilitator posed a question. He said, how do you tell people that you're an HR without actually telling them that you're an HR? Any answers here? So I was thinking, but I'll just repeat the question. He asked, how do you tell people that you're an HR without actually telling them that you're an HR? And the interesting answer was, I'll get back to you. Right, so most people say that, I'll get back to you. I'm pretty sure all of you in your journey at least once have said that you will get back to a candidate, but you've never gotten back. Right? So that becomes an issue. Sometimes even when you don't have a clear feedback, or even when you have a feedback, you never let the candidate know, right? And you keep them hanging. So that leaves a very bad impression on the candidate. Second case is when you have a very vague feedback, right? The hiring manager might tell you, hey, that person's rejected. He might think that if I get into the technical side of it, as a recruiter, you might not understand, so he'll just say, hey, that candidate's rejected. And you will write a mail or maybe send a rejection mail saying, hey, we did not like your assignment because it did not meet our expectations, so you're rejected. That means the candidate does not have clarity, we do not have clarity. Eventually, it ends up leading a very bad impression on the candidate. Lastly, I think as recruiters or as HR, some of us struggle in selling our brand, right? So first problem is, sometimes we clearly don't know about the brand, right? What do we do? If it's a product company, what are the products that we have? We have no idea, right? We do our business and we don't try to understand the business, right? We just think, okay, my job is to just hire people and that's it. So it becomes a challenge for us to sell the brand sometimes. So we struggle in selling the company, in telling the candidate on the other side what we do or what we are and what we stand for, and eventually, again, it leads to a very bad candidate experience.
Just one quick merchandise promotion you did for us. There is Keka merchandise available out there which says, I'll get back to you.